After returning from a week-long international trip, I was surprised when my mother-in-law, Julie, called me sounding excited. She mentioned something about a $100,000 windfall we had apparently saved. Confused, I tried to remember any recent time I had saved such a sum. As a freelance jewelry designer, I do have a savings account for emergencies, but I don't keep large amounts of cash around, and my bank card was with me the entire trip. Normally, no one else has access to withdraw such a large amount from my account. Julie said, "He gave it to me, so I took it from the sideboard drawer. You guys are doing well, so it's fine." Her words left me bewildered. Before I could ask more questions, she quickly thanked me and hinted at counting on me for future financial help before hanging up. I was left puzzled about the missing $100,000 until Larry, my husband, came home and explained the misunderstanding. A month later, Julie bombarded me with numerous calls. At first, I ignored them, but the constant ringing eventually made me answer. Seeing over 50 missed calls on my phone was alarming. When I picked up, Julie's loud voice filled the room, accusing me of ignoring her. Her tone suggested she felt wronged, but to me, it was just the result of her assumptions. My life as Olivia, a 37-year-old busy freelance jewelry designer wanting children but overwhelmed by work, is shared with my equally busy husband, Larry. He used to have a corporate job, but now helps me manage my growing design business. Early in our marriage, my design jobs were rare, and we largely depended on Larry's steady income. Now, as my business flourishes, our roles and responsibilities have changed, but so have our challenges, like dealing with unexpected family misunderstandings about money. As I neared 34, my career as a jewelry designer was taking off, and I needed to organize my busy schedule better. Seeing the demands of my business grow, my husband, Larry, who was doing well at his company and about to get a promotion, made a bold choice. He quit his job to join me, using his management skills to help our business. Together, we got contracts with big international brands, improving both our work and personal lives. But with success came new challenges, especially with Larry's mom, Julie. She lived alone and saw our lives as luxurious, often asking us for money. "You always seem to be living so lavishly. I'm jealous," she would say. My job required me to attend product launches and dinners with executives, which Julie saw as fun outings. Her requests for money became more personal over time. "I'm going to throw a party for my friends soon. Can you give me some money for it?" she asked once. Even though it looked like we could afford it, keeping up our business image was expensive and full of obligations. We weren't living in luxury. These were necessary parts of our work. Julie, full of envy and sarcasm, didn't understand our expenses. "Dressed up beautifully, eating at expensive places, I envy you," she'd say. Despite my repeated refusals, Larry, being her son, would sometimes give in to her demands. If giving her a little money keeps her quiet, then it's worth it, he'd argue, finding it easier to appease her than have our work disrupted. But Julie's demands only grew. Recently, she wanted a new dress for an upcoming gathering. Just the other day, Julie came over and pestered Larry. "Wouldn't a three-piece suit work? We've been asked to buy clothes before," she said. "There might be cheaper options, but what Julie wants is certainly not cheap." I explained to Julie that it was a fancy party and she couldn't be the only one in old clothes. She also insisted on a matching bag, which left us frustrated. To handle her frequent requests, Larry had set up a credit card in Julie's name for her expenses. At first, she overspent a lot and Larry had to warn her. Even though he asked her to tell us before making big purchases, she kept spending too much. This constant demand for money left both Larry and me exhausted, trying to support family while keeping our business stable. I found an exquisite ring and couldn't resist buying it, though I regret not telling you first. Unfortunately, the bill was huge. Julie said, "If spending is going to be this uncontrolled, maybe it's best to take back the card." "We just can't cover these costs," Larry said. The credit card was in Julie's name, but Larry was the one managing and paying the bills. Julie treated the card as if it had no limit, not realizing every purchase had to be paid for. Since the money wasn't coming directly from her, she kept using it freely. To control her spending, Larry set a limit on her card. Julie stormed into our home one day, frustrated. "What the heck? I couldn't pay for my shopping the other day." "Why?" she complained. We explained that her excessive spending was straining our finances, so we had to lower her limit. "It's still enough, right?" Larry asked, trying to keep the peace. "But you two are still dressing up and going to fancy places. How is what I'm doing any different?" Julie protested, thinking our activities were just for fun. "That's part of our job, Julie. If that's a job, then what I'm doing isn't any different. It's unfair that only you two get to have all the fun," she argued. "While it's true that our work involves attending events in luxurious venues, these are professional obligations, not leisure activities." Despite her misunderstandings, setting a limit on Julie's credit card seemed to calm things down. Occasionally, Julie would visit and complain to Larry, but overall, life continued without major disruptions. As the year ended, an exciting opportunity came up. A foreign brand manufacturer approached me with a proposal to expand our business by moving overseas. This prospect thrilled me as it could elevate me to the ranks of top-tier designers. Larry, ever supported as my manager, was all for it. "It's a chance we have to take," he affirmed. However, the idea of moving abroad brought a new concern. Julie. Given her past behavior, it was a real worry that she might insist on joining us overseas. The thought of living internationally was exciting, but dealing with Julie's demands in a new country was daunting. When we told Julie about our plans to move overseas for work that weekend, she reacted as we expected. "I want to come too," she declared, assuming our move would be a long vacation. Larry tried to explain, "We're going there for work. It won't be as leisurely as you think." But Julie was skeptical. "You're trying to trick me. You're planning to live even more lavishly there without me watching," she accused. "We're not moving there permanently. We'll come back after our work is done," I explained, trying to calm her concerns. Yet she retorted, "You're saying that, but you're planning to leave me behind, aren't you?" Larry and I were both exhausted by this repetitive argument. In an attempt to compromise, Larry suggested, "Okay, we can't take you with us, but how about we pay for a week-long trip for you instead?" Julie perked up at this. "Really? Are you sure? We'll cover your flight and hotel, but you'll need to manage the rest," Larry affirmed, pleased for the moment. However, the peace was short-lived. A few days later, while Larry was busy with the move arrangements, Julie dropped by unexpectedly. "Hey Olivia, Larry said I want to shop over there too. Can you give me some money?" she asked. "What about the card that Larry gave you?" I inquired, knowing she had a designated credit card for such expenses. Julie's face fell. "That's the thing. Larry finally took it away from me the other day," she admitted. It seemed she had been reprimanded for overspending, and anticipating the challenges of managing finances with different currency rates overseas, Larry had confiscated the card. "I don't have that kind of money on hand either. I can't give you money without Larry's approval." "Can you ask him?" I suggested, knowing full well Larry's stance. "It's no use asking him. That's why I'm asking you," she pressed, raising her voice in frustration. Julie did end up going on a 15 days trip abroad, which I assumed Larry managed to fund somehow. Upon her return, she called me, brimming with excitement. "I'm back, and it was so fun." She shared tales of her sightseeing and dining adventures, though I hadn't asked. "And I overbought souvenirs and couldn't fit them in my suitcase, so I had them shipped here. Can't wait for them to arrive," she exclaimed. "That's nice," I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral despite feeling a bit overwhelmed. "Thanks to the money you saved up, I had a blast," she exclaimed. "Saved up money? What are you talking about?" I responded, puzzled and a bit alarmed, having no recollection of setting aside money for her splurge. I found it in your house's sideboard drawer, she said, claiming she took $100,000. I was stunned. Why would such a large amount of cash be stashed away at home, especially not in a drawer where anyone could find it? Confused, I confronted her. I'm not sure what money you're talking about, but taking it from our house without permission is theft, even if you're family. Do you understand that? Julie's response was unsettlingly casual. That's why I'm telling you now. I used it. Consider it a post-factum report, she declared unapologetically. I have no idea about this money, but if you took it and used it without telling anyone, that's a crime. And if it was something Larry had set aside for an important transaction, it's even more serious, I explained, trying to make sense of the situation. Despite this, there hadn't been any noticeable disruptions in our business finances during her trip. You two live so extravagantly, so why can't I have a little of that? Think of it as doing a favor for your parent. It's not a big deal, right? She rationalized, showing a sense of entitlement that was hard to comprehend. It's one thing to ask for help from your son and his wife, but this is not how you should behave after taking someone else's money, I replied, still in disbelief. I'm glad you enjoyed your trip, but I'll have to discuss this with Larry when he returns. Larry will understand. After all, I'm his only mother, and $100,000 isn't much to him, she assumed. All right, I'll pass the message along, I said, astounded by her lack of awareness. Later that evening, when Larry came home, he looked troubled. Olivia, do you know about the money I left in the drawer? He asked urgently. 20 days ago, I withdrew it from my bank account, and now it's gone. Keeping such a large sum in a drawer, didn't you think it was careless? He questioned. I needed cash immediately for an urgent payment. Do you know anything about it? It suddenly clicked. Julie's earlier call thanking me for the $100,000 and mentioning how much fun she had made sense now. It was Larry's money meant for a crucial purpose. Larry, today Julie called, thanking us for the $100,000 and saying she had a blast with it, I explained. I didn't understand what she meant until now. I explained, piecing everything together. So it was Larry's money, but what was such a large amount meant for? I asked. Hey, if it wasn't for a business payment, we've been doing bank transfers for a long time, right? Why cash all of a sudden? I questioned, trying to understand the whole situation and deal with the consequences of Julie's actions. I knew it was Larry's money that had disappeared, but I didn't know the full story. Julie had taken the money without telling us, and I needed to understand why. I asked Larry, puzzled by the situation. Larry began to explain. After he reduced the credit limit on Julie's card, she started secretly borrowing money from various sources, including consumer finance cards and credit cards she had opened without our knowledge. When Larry found out about her growing debt, he took away all her cards and withdrew cash to settle her debts directly, aiming to bypass the banking system to keep our business accounts clean and maintain trust with our partners. This was also partly a farewell gesture, as we were moving abroad and wouldn't be around to manage such issues for her. Larry explained, I planned to handle her debts discreetly to prevent our financial records from getting complicated. A month had passed since then, and as I was busy packing for our move, Julie's frequent calls became hard to ignore. When I finally took her call, her voice was filled with desperation. Why aren't you answering my calls? I've called so many times, she said, almost in tears. I'm sorry, Julie. I've been caught up with the move. What's going on? I asked, trying to remain calm and give her a chance to explain her side. It's not just one thing, it's everything. They're asking for payments almost every day. It's too much, Julie confessed, her voice cracking under the strain. Have you tried contacting Larry about this? I asked, hoping she had sought his help first. He seems to be blocking my calls. I can't get through to him at all. Olivia, you're my only hope now. Please help me, she pleaded. I realized then just how complex the situation had become. Julie's financial recklessness had led her into a maze of debt, and now, cut off from Larry's assistance. She was turning to me as her last resort. As we prepared to start anew in a foreign country, dealing with Julie's financial chaos demanded immediate attention before we could fully focus on our new beginnings. I was surprised by Larry's drastic approach toward his mother. If he had used the prepared funds to settle Julie's debts directly, this stressful situation might have been avoided. Now, Julie was overwhelmed with collection letters and constant calls from finance companies and lenders. It was like a scene from a dramatic film, something I never thought I'd see in real life. I'll talk to Larry, but I can't guarantee what he'll do. A son should help his mother in trouble, right? Please ask him for me, Julie pleaded at the end of our conversation. But with our business expansion coming up, our finances were already stretched thin. We couldn't afford to help Julie more, especially since she misused the money meant to settle her debts. When I told Larry about the call, he responded with a mix of fatigue and resignation. I had planned to sort things out before we left, but she squandered that chance herself, he said coldly. The money was originally meant to clear Julie's debts, but she spent it on a lavish trip, leaving no room for excuses. As Julie's calls continued, I followed Larry's lead and blocked her number. Part of me wished to help her. She was, after all, Larry's mother, but there was nothing I could do if he chose to detach from the situation. Meanwhile, our move overseas was fast approaching, and I still had a lot to pack. Amid the chaos, I discovered more troubling news. Julie had decided to sell her house to manage her debts. It turned out she had hidden even more liabilities than we knew. The total amount was so large that even after selling her property, she couldn't cover it all. Losing the family home where Larry had grown up was deeply upsetting. Our family home is gone. Are you okay with that? I asked, sensing his sadness. How can I be okay? But there's nothing we can do, Larry replied, his voice tinged with sorrow. Losing the house where he grew up must have felt like a great loss, much like how I felt when I lost my parents' house early in life. Amid these complex feelings and the heavy task of packing, we had to come to terms with the fact that some situations were beyond our control. We needed to focus on our future as we prepared to start anew in a different country. The bittersweet reality of losing a family home struck me deeply. I watched the situation unfold with Larry. Unlike my past experiences, Larry had not only lost the house where his earliest memories were made, but also his emotional sanctuary, and all while his mother, Julie, was still alive. It's a hard feeling to describe the mix of loss and displacement, especially under such painful circumstances. It's more than just losing a building. It's about losing a part of your history and the comfort of a place to return to that no longer exists. Julie now lives in a modest apartment and faces the daily struggle of managing her debts. She works part-time, which is tough given her age. Job opportunities for older people are limited and often physically demanding and less rewarding. This new reality is a big change from her previous life of unchecked spending and financial freedom. Though I feel sympathy seeing her struggle, it's tempered by knowing her situation is the result of her own poor financial decisions. Life teaches us that actions have consequences, and Julie's case reaffirms that financial responsibility is crucial at any age. In our new environment, the business is thriving beyond our expectations. The move overseas has brought our brand into the international spotlight, with a flood of inquiries and offers from all over the world. Every new email and call brings potential for growth and collaboration, which is exciting but also very demanding. The success is thrilling but consumes our entire lives, leaving little room for anything else. Days blend into nights as we navigate time zones and cultural differences, trying to make the most of this golden opportunity. Despite the professional achievements, our personal lives are weighed down by our relentless schedules. The dream of expanding our family seems more like a distant vision, something we hope to revisit when the immediate demands lessen. Larry, who handles everything from logistics to client management, feels the strain deeply. As partners in both life and business, we often ponder our future and priorities, wondering how we can balance our professional goals with our personal desires. I look out of our apartment window, taking in the vast landscape. The neon lights blur into the night, mirroring the blur of our daily lives. This view, filled with promise and anonymity, is a sharp contrast to the familiar streets we once knew. This city, vibrant and relentless, is now our home. However, it starkly contrasts with the quiet, steady life we left behind. Our new life is exciting but also daunting. It's filled with endless tasks and decisions that challenge us at every turn. Navigating this new chapter, I often think about Julie's situation and the broader implications of our family and financial decisions. It's a continuous learning curve, understanding how deeply our choices are intertwined with our lives. Each decision, each sacrifice, and each success shapes not just our immediate circumstances, but also the legacy we leave behind. This view is full of promise and anonymity, a big change from the familiar streets we once knew. This city, vibrant and relentless, is now our home, but it is very different from the quiet. Our new life is exciting but also challenging, with endless tasks and decisions at every turn. As we navigate this new chapter, I often think about Julie's situation and how our family and money choices affect everything. We keep learning how our choices are deeply connected to our lives. As we build this new phase of our life, we try to balance achieving success and maintaining the relationships that define us beyond our business achievements.